What is your take on retail, given the data you've analyzed over the past year here, and everything that's happened since COVID-19 entered our lives?
Well, the short version is retail is not dead. And most of us have written long obituaries to retail and said, this is going to be a devastating crisis. There's going to be 10 years of, short sales and blah, 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 blah. Well, none of that turned out to be right. And the biggest reason for why retail has not died and is not likely to die is that the value of their land has gone up so fantastically in the last 18 months. So multifamily today in the United States is worth 18% more. Sorry, single family is worth 18% more. And in good areas, in nice areas, the land that is now currently zoned retail and is under these half-occupied properties has actually gone up a great deal in value. It's created a liquidity effect for these retailers. And so what is happening with retail is it's going through a once-in-a-generation shift. We've seen this shift before. If you remember in the 80s, we came in with the new mall, right? So malls were all the rage. People would just go to malls because it was the place to go to. And after a while, it sort of became just passé, right? Young people would still go to malls, but for older people, the charm was gone by the time the 90s had ended. So we've seen that evolution once. And now retail is going through another evolution. And I'm going to give you examples of that evolution, right? So everyone's heard of companies like Westfield, right? So they do shopping malls. And you might think that as one of the biggest players in retail right now, they must be having a horrible time. And truth be told, they're not having a good time of it. But they're not doing what most people expect them to do, which is, well, they're going to be like Sears. They're going to be dying for the next 10 years, and eventually one day they will just die. Far from it. They're attracting very large amounts of investor capital from institutional investors. Both Simon and Westfield are attracting large amounts of institutional capital because they have reinvented themselves, and the smaller malls, the strip malls, are going to follow their lead over the next 5 years. Retail is being reinvented, and here's a perfect example of how they're reinventing it. What was the biggest problem with malls? The biggest problem with malls is every customer had to come to a mall. So it was one single source of customers. And if those customers didn't come, then the mall basically looked abandoned, right?
Yes.
So Westfield and Simon and a bunch of other big mall operators are basically turning the mall concept on its head by building properties like the Domain. So check out the Domain if you're in Austin. It's in North Austin. Gorgeous place. It's an external mall. Right, so there's no internal mall. It's kind of a walk mall. You're walking down the street and you have shops on both sides. What's the biggest benefit of that? Air conditioning costs, because heating and cooling costs are killing the mall. Now, when you take people out of that, people are only heating their store, right? They're only heating their shop, and that's their cost. It's being passed on to the company that's in there. So that makes operating a mall much simpler. But the biggest part of it is the Domain has 3 floors of apartments, very high quality apartments above the retail. And they also are anchoring the Domain with restaurants on one side. So there's a street like filled with restaurants, and then there's a street filled with retail. And then they have on one side of the Domain, they have offices. On the other side, they have hotels, right? So this is a live example. Anybody can Google it. You don't need to go to Austin. Just go to Google and check it out. It's a really well-designed, thought-out structure. So now you've got basically the offices giving you lots and lots of customers for retail and also for restaurants during the day. And then you've got thousands of people that come home during the evening and they come down and they're frequenting the restaurant side. Usually by 7 o'clock, the retail's gone. It's closed, right? They close fairly early these days. All retail closes fairly early. But the restaurant strip is just incredibly vibrant. And so what has happened is that because of COVID, almost every city in the US has finally said, fine, we will help you rezone. If you want to go from retail to mixed use, we'll do it. In the past, cities were the obstacle. Simon and Westfield have been trying to go from retail to mixed use for decades. But the problem is zoning, right? Zoning is an issue. And most cities were like, no, we like the money that retail makes. Retail makes a lot more in taxes than multifamily does. Now, at this point, the cities are like, oh, you could simply go out of business. I don't want to have an abandoned mall in the middle of my city. So every city is like, okay, what do you want to do? Okay, well, I want to build another 4 floors above an existing mall. Okay, I'll give you, approval to do that. You just need to take care of parking. Well, I have plenty of parking. My customer count is down to 50%. So I have 400, 500 parking spots. And parking is one of the biggest costs of having multifamily. So now what's happening is that this reinvention of retail is happening. More and more malls have 24-hour fitness or, Apple Fitness in there. So they're making it a destination for people to go to, and they're making it a destination for people to live there. Now, how does this work with strip malls? Well, to some extent it does, and some extent it doesn't. I do predict that we will see significant bankruptcies in the strip mall business over the next 2 or 3 years. So that is still coming. But I think many of them will still be able to get approval to build on top of where they are. The density levels will increase. The problem with strip malls is they don't have enough parking. The big malls all have plenty of parking, so they'll get approvals much faster. With the strip malls, it'll be dependent. Some cities will be like, look, this is going to be a blight. It's going to close. It's going to sit there for the next 5 years. Nobody's going to buy it. Let's help them in some way or the other, right? So what they might do is say, okay, demolish a portion of your retail and then go vertically upwards and build some multifamily. And now you've got some more retail left at the bottom. So a reinvention of retail is happening. I don't see retail dying out. I did see this insane spike that we all saw of e-commerce as soon as COVID opened, right? So, for a while, for about 7 or 8 months, e-commerce was straight line growth, right? Straight line growth is the greatest thing in anything in history.
We all know all our Amazon
right?
drivers' names.
Exactly, right? So, and Bezos, divorces his wife, gives her $40 billion, still the second richest man in the world, right? Straight line growth. So now it's plateaued out. It's plateaued out. I'm seeing now it's back to its trend of 10%, 15%, growth in e-commerce. And people are going back to retail for one big reason. We punished the world by keeping them locked up for 18 months. So now what people are doing is once they're comfortable, it's like revenge retail. It's like, I want to go to a mall, not because I enjoy a mall, but because I can prove that COVID did not kill me, right? I can get out of the house. So you're actually seeing an upsurge there. Holiday sales are up significantly with retail. Once again, so we're moving from slow moving debacle to a slow moving evolution where there's still going to be a little bit of a debacle aspect, but not the meltdown that many people had predicted, including myself, because none of us saw that land that's sitting under the retail becoming so lucrative in an 18-month COVID period.